Find myself sometimes. Flower, motherland, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let me know my eyes. She is the bride, the throne of me. Speaking words of wisdom, let it be. 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 Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Diffusion is a result of globalization, or the interconnection between markets throughout the world. As the famous paradox by Heraclitus goes, change is the only constant in life. What this means is change is inevitable and everlasting. A great vehicle to introduce and facilitate change is by people. Sources of diffusion vary, but it is through people that make it possible. Some sources include immigration, trade of goods, technological advances, education, even warfare. Diffusion is a two-way street in that both the foreign and domestic cultures share their traditions and ideas of their own culture with the other. The process is not always successful, however. Ultimately, cultural diffusion may or may not be successful depending on the needs, values, and traditions of the respective cultures.
You know what the funniest thing about Europe is? What? It's a little different to us. I mean, they got the same shit over there they got here. It's just a little different.
Example.
You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese and in Paris?
They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese?
Nah, man. They use a metric system over there. They don't know what the French a quarter pounder is.
And what do they call it?
They call it a Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
Businesses are expanding into global markets at an ever-increasing rate. As shown in the previous clip from the award-winning movie Pulp Fiction, companies adapt to the environments they move into. Since people in France use a metric system, they would have a tough time understanding what a quarter pounder with cheese actually is. Slightly adjusting a product's quality, image, and/or name can have a substantial impact on the success of said product. Another example of this can be seen in the following clip, as Volkswagen takes their product to the Chinese market. So, sir, how do you like the interior of this Volkswagen?
Very good. Very much like space.
And the black exterior, are you a fan of that as well?
Yes, very black. Very professional.
Here are some more examples of successful adaptation of diffusion from the United States as well as other countries around the world.
America! 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 America!
America,
America! America! America!
America,
America! 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 Argentina!
Even though the United States is very influential in diffusing its ideals and products into different cultures, there are countless examples of this originating from other societies, such as Germany, England, and elsewhere in the world. It is often misconstrued that diffusion only goes from high-tech environments to less advanced ones. This is not always the case, as can be seen with religion spreading from Jerusalem in the early 80s centuries, ethnic music from several societies in Africa, various staple foods from South America, and many other examples.
Diffusion often has a positive outcome, but sometimes these changes can come at the price of local customs and traditions. A good example of this being the Mercado San Miguel, a traditional market in the center of Madrid. Originally a cultural gathering place for buying and selling produce, the market was forced to close at the end of the 20th century due to the growing competition from supermarkets and other modern conveniences. While the market was eventually reopened and adapted to fit the new influences, a part of the original integrity was lost.
Other times, diffusion meets great resistance from a culture and does not have a positive outcome. An example of this would be the clash between capitalistic forces of government in France pushing for austerity and the working class. This caused 3.5 million demonstrators as well as many strikes nationwide in September of 2010. Examples of these strikes can be found in Paris, where hundreds of tourists were turned away from the Eiffel Tower by staff, at the Metro, where the workers from the RATP voted for an indefinite strike action starting in mid-October, and a strike at the port of oil terminals, where 40% of crude oil imported into France passes through.
As we have seen, diffusion across cultures is nearly ubiquitous, with practically every country intermingled with another in some way, for better or for worse. Cultural diffusion occurs constantly throughout the world, and no matter how separate or isolated we might believe one culture to be from another, we are much more connected than we know. Not all cultures react the same to attempts at diffusion, at times embracing this change, while at other times rejecting it. Despite, or perhaps because of, its complex, multifaceted nature, diffusion is an integral part of developing and changing cultures, and by extension, being successful in international business.
Profundo.